Brian? I was just going through the Paul Weller tune. Let's go through that Paul Weller tune, playing around with some ideas I'm going to talk about in just a second. So hope you're having a good week. Thanks for sending those messages over and tell me what you've been working on. And looking forward to getting in the studio next week. I got 3 things I want to talk about. I'll go down the list. You have questions at the end, just shoot them on over and I'll do my best to answer. Good, cool. So first thing is answer the first question that you had for me, which was, I believe you were working, according to your notes, I think if I got it right, you were kind of getting stuck in a rut just by playing 3-5-7, 3-5-7. What I'm assuming what you meant by that is that you've already taken those 3 boxes and you can play each one of them on one string. So say, for example, box 1, box 2, box 3. I'm assuming you can already do that, according to your text. Going through that. Right? You should be able to play sequences that way. Right? You should be able to play 3-note sequences up the string, 4-note sequences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Different groupings like that. And then also be able to play vertical and vertical across the neck in a zigzag fashion with a sequence like this. So I'm assuming you can already move between the boxes in that way. So what you can do now to break out of the single string kind of rut and then out of the zigzag pattern kind of rut is by doing 2 string groupings across the fretboard. What I mean by that is I'll take 2 strings, for example, strings 1 and strings 2, right here, the E string and the B string. What I'll do is I'll play 3-note sequences through the top 2 strings. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That was box 1 right there. I'm going to move into box 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right? Move into box 3. Right? You can also add a guitar effect in there too. What I like to do is something like this. Once you get to box 4 right there. You do that backwards. Yep. Right, so you can move in both directions that way. What you can do, like I said, add the guitar effect in there, like a slide or a hammer-on or a string bend, and then a rhythmic cell. You're a drummer, so I'm assuming that you know your rhythms pretty well, very well, in fact, I'm assuming. So you can make like triplet patterns, like an 8th note followed by 2 16th notes, or the vice versa, like 1 E end, 2 E end, 1 E end, 2 E end, or 1 triplet, 2 da 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 da. So there I did the triplet, 1, 2, 3, 1 da da, and then 1 E end, 2 E end. Right? So different things you can do there. So you can change the rhythm. So I would do maybe 2 sequences with like 1 rhythmic grouping and then follow it with a second rhythmic grouping. You mentioned before like emulating the vocal line, which is excellent. You can do that. So you can borrow rhythms from the vocal line, which is great. I call it guitar karaoke. You can throw the karaoke track on and then you can try to play the vocal line over top of it or some semblance of using those rhythmic groupings. But I always sit down when I try to make this interesting or be creative with it, is pick a concept, like 2 string groupings. And then I'll go, okay, add a guitar effect in there. Like, what am I working on? String bends, slides, what am I doing? Because I can always get better at all those things. And then what sort of rhythmic cell can I put in there to make it more interesting rhythmically to the listener? So it's not the same thing every time, like straight 8th notes or something. So work on that right there. Other thing to work on is that remember that we have every pentatonic box has a corresponding major shape that goes along with it. E minor is relative to major is obviously G major, right? So box 1's shape was this right here, right? Right, you should be able to play the box. Be able to play 2 sequences, i.e. this one will be 4 note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You can do a 4-note sequence and a 3-note sequence, and then play the chord as an arpeggio, right? You should be able to do that, and then do that for the next box. Sequences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, ba, da, 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 right? Keep on going. Be able to play the cage shape that goes with it, and then the arpeggio. because those are our basis for targeting tones, right? So you should be able to, with those first two boxes, so I'll do the third box. So this moves into point number 2 down here. Box 3 shape that goes along with it is the D form G chord. It's a root 4. It's a root 4 cage chord. It's not necessarily a bar chord. You can bar it if you want to, but I don't. Root 4 is this right here. It's a D shape with a fret at 5 right here, right? That's this root 4, right? The way to find root 4 notes is take your root 6 octave box. Oops. Right? Down 2 strings, over 2 frets gives you the root note for the D form chord. Right? And the notes on the D string, which you start working on too if you haven't done so already. Right? So the trick is down 2 strings, over 2 frets gives you the D chord. You should be able to play. Then what you got to be doing, what I did in the solo at the beginning of the video, was that there are times where you want to actually outline the chord shape. I guess it starts getting into kind of into point 3 that I have, is that thoughts on cage major. And I remember you sent over in a text message a little bit ago that you started working on your cage major boxes. You can start looking at them, but what I like to do is make sure that you know all 5 boxes inside and out, can do all these different sequences. Can you play on 2 strings up the neck with a pentatonic box? Can you identify all the cage chords that live inside of those boxes? For example, if box 4, oops, right, you should know all of those, because if you try to rush the process and you try to get into modal harmony, this is what happens if you try to go to modal harmony without like setting everything up. Is that, okay, Doug, I'm ready to play Mixolydian. Here's my Mixolydian fingering. People just end up running scales and not knowing that I go, oh, well, there's the blue note because I did my magic triangles. There's all my color tones for Mixolydian. So the B and the F sharp are going to be the color tone, or sorry, B and the F are going to be color tones for Mixolydian. If you haven't gone through going, okay, where are all my magic triangles at, the notes on the fretboard, and you try to just learn box fingerings, you're going to miss out on the things that make Mixolydian or Dorian sound Mixolydian or Dorian, and they always end up sounding just like someone running up and down scales. You should be able to stone cold nail the G arpeggio. Right? You should be able to stone cold nail all those right there. Because if you know where all the arpeggio shapes, you know where the landing spots are for G, and it's just a short hop and skip and a jump to putting in the note F in there. Right? It's not that far off from finding the arpeggio and then adding in the color tone and then surrounding it with enclosures from the box scales. That way has yielded more results for me than just teaching just like how many fingers can you jam in your head in a week. Because what'll happen, if it happened to me too when I tried to learn all the boxes all at one go when I was a younger player, was that I just forget them, right? Like if I didn't spend, even after a master's degree, I still spent, when I went back to study harmony, the fretboard harmony after school, I still spent a lot of time just in one key on the fretboard, and I was entertained. Because you're taking all these shapes and you're finding all the landing spots that make them sound like their representative mode. Now that's not to say that we can alter the pentatonic scale and play pentatonic modes, which are fun to do too, and we'll take an offshoot on that to kind of satisfy that creative itch that you have. But be very patient. Don't try to learn too many boxes all at once, because if you're like me, man, I'm straight forget them, right? Like there's so much to remember on this instrument that if I don't use them, or if I don't spend a lot of time with each box, Rome wasn't built in a day, as my teacher put it. And if you try to do the boxes too quick, they're going to turn into a mishmash in your head of like wait a minute, was that box 4? Is that box 3? And which H chord goes with this one? Which one goes with that one? Can I transpose it to A minor, right? So all those things need to take place. So just be patient with those. I promise we'll get there. We're just kind of going down the list because the last thing I want for you to do is have Swiss cheese knowledge base. It's like in your head, it's the paradox that we have here is that inside your head you have all this theoretical knowledge. And then the thing that we need to up our game on is your application of. It's kind of like I have concepts I've studied in school. I just haven't really had time to really play with them yet. So therefore I don't play with them until I have the time to devote to learning them well. So even though inside your head, I'm sure you can tell me exactly how a Dorian mode works and what separates a mode from a scale and what notes inside the mode bring out the flavor of the mode and what arpeggios we should be doing and all the fingers, you still need to go through the step of learning application on the fretboard. Where does that stuff live and how do you get your fingers to and from one shape to another? So just be patient with that. I promise we're going to get there. We're just kind of going through the pentatonics, make sure we're not going to miss anything, because last thing I want you to do is miss anything, because it's super cool when you get to modal harmony and realize that you can play all your minor pentatonics, like D Dorian, for example. You can play D minor pentatonic over top of all that. It'll sound great. You add one extra note in from our magic triangle assignment, and all of a sudden you're playing Dorian pentatonic without having to learn a bunch of new fingerings, and they can seamlessly switch between a D minor arpeggio, right? So say if you're doing like a D minor arpeggio, then come down D minor pentatonic, and then add in the flavor tone of Dorian, right? If you miss all that stuff, if you try to rush it, you're trying to get to the top of Everest without really enjoying the journey of all the sounds and colors that you'll develop on your palette. So just be patient with that. I promise we'll get there. I'll get off my soapbox now. Assignment is be able to break out of the boxes using the the sequences on 2 strings. You can do a grouping here on strings 1 and 2. You can do 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5. And then 5 and 6, all those are fair game. Then we'll do cross string licks where you would actually jump over. This is where it gets interesting, I think. Where the next would be? There we go, that's it, right? So there's so much out there, man, that like I knew it for a living, and I'm like, wait a minute, what was that concept again? So there's just so much out there. Don't rush it, and because I promise you it's well worth the journey. So that's which I'm still on myself. So awesome, man. And then work on that box 3 plus D4. Hit the targeting notes, and then we'll talk next time about all that goodness in there too. And I have a bunch of other Paul Weller tunes in there that are really cool. Like I said, he reminds me of like a second British Invasion, kind of like a Who kind of band or a Who kind of artist. So all kinds of fun stuff there. All right, man. Like I said, got questions, send them over to me. If not, I will see you same time next time. Bye.